It's time. It's time for us to talk. I did it. I have finished Expedition 33, Lizzie.
I'm proud of you. It only took you forever and a half, but I'm proud of you.
You know what? I have nothing to apologize for. Just it took me some time. I took a little break. Because I started it, and then I was like, I don't know. And then everybody and their mom was just like, "Hey, Alex, have you played Expedition 33? I want to talk to you about the ending of Expedition 33. We need to talk about the story structure of Expedition 33. I want to hear your hot take." And then eventually I was like, it got to a point where I was just like, fine, I'll fucking finish it. I bounced off the game, but it's okay. And here we are.
I think a lot of people bounced off for a little bit and then they made it back. I do think
You did too,
yeah.
right?
But mine was very short. Mine was only for like a few days. I didn't take you took like a bit of a hiatus. My husband has taken a bit of a hiatus. I'm pretty sure. No, he's in the deep dark hole of Arc Raiders. Our friend Kelly, I think, took a short. I don't know if she ever stopped playing, but I know there was a moment where she was like, I don't know if I'm into this. And I think everybody's like, that moment is very similar for everyone, where everybody's like, eh. And then you kind of get over that hump and then you're like, oh, okay, I see what's happening here. And it just progressively gets better, in my opinion. I don't know. We're going to hear. I haven't. Keep in mind, guys, that Alex and I have not talked about this. Okay. So this is the first time that we're also getting the chance to sit down and talk about Expedition. If you're a new listener, I am a die-hard Expedition 33 fan. I will fight my battle to be like, no, it's a good game.
And if you've been living under a rock, Expedition 33 was a game that came out last year. It was a turn-based JRPG style game from France, from a French developer of a bunch of ex-Ubisoft employees and Reddit users, apparently, who, they released this kind of mid-budget, they call it a AA game because it was a larger budget than most indie titles, but also didn't have like AAA backing. And it's been sweeping all the awards. People have been talking about it like it's the second coming of like Ocarina of Time. And, there's been a lot of hype. And it was a good game.
It was.
I will say it was a good video game. Before I say anything else about this video game, to the people who enjoy Expedition 33 and honestly can't even stand hearing a criticism of it, I'm going to preface this whole episode with saying, you're right, the game is good, okay? It was a really great debut from a great developer. I'm excited to see the second game. I will replay this game before the, Claire Obscure, whatever the next game in the series it will be called. But I think we need to kind of dive into this a bit.
Yeah, we will. And this is more of a topic, I guess, for later on too. But I was just thinking about it. I was like, what in the world would a second part Expedition 33 game look like? Because like knowing the end, like what would it be? Like, I'd be very interested to see like how could they work that in? Because I don't know if you can easily, but we can keep that for the end.
I've actually got a really hype idea for what they could do for the second game.
Okay.
I enjoyed it enough to think about that.
Okay.
I'll say that.
But this is going to be more of we're going to see how this goes. Because like I said, we got Alex who has a lot of thoughts and me who loves things. So take it away, Alex.
I also want to say, like, this is the most, like, I feel like I've never seen you, like, try to, like, censor or, like, form your sentences in your head about, like, how do I phrase this without being too...
I am one of the annoying people who think it's the bee's knees, sliced bread, it's the shit, don't talk negatively about it. I am one of those people, whatever.
There we go. Go off, queen. All right? Because I just look at me like I'm going to, like, shoot you. And I'm like...
Okay, but says the one. Okay, hold on. Let me preface also by saying Alex also previously said that he thought about coming into this conversation just trying to rage bait me. Okay,
Absolutely.
so at this point, I'm a little on my toes because I'm ready for him to just fuck around the entire time.
I'm not gonna fuck around.
So I'm just a little.
Around.
I'm just a little on edge. Okay, but yeah.
Okay,
continue.
So we get to let's start off talking just about like the world of this game and like this, you know, because I feel like that's what everybody's really excited about.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I talk to people, well, what they love about the game is the story and the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the game, you start in this place called Lumiere, which is in this world. I don't know if they have a name for the continent or not. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
Basically, you're in France. You're in Paris. Except instead of calling it Paris, they named it after a candlestick from a Disney movie, and which is great. I love the
top character. So
perhaps the best character in the Beauty and the Beast. Right up there with Mrs. Potts for sure. And basically what has happened is a giant lady has painted a number up on a cliff. It started at 100 and it started counting down. And basically every year, if you're older than that number, you would disappear into a petal, like a bunch of rose petals. And the year is just about to go from 34 to 33 when you start the game. And you kind of get to know the town of Lumiere, which is definitely not Paris, even though they have a street literally called Tour d'Eiffel. But anyway, you're playing a guy named Gustave who looks like every other French man in this video game.
Kinda. He looks like Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, a little bit. That would be a great casting for the movie, by the way. I would love to see Robert Pattinson as Gustave.
Yeah, he would be perfect. Like the first time that I played it, I was like, who is this? Like who body acts this? Which then later on you find out is oh my gosh, now I can't think of it because I'm only thinking of Ben Starr who voices it. But Goose, continue. I'll find it.
And you're introduced to Gustave and Maelle, and I can't remember the name of Gustave's girlfriend. And Sophie? Basically Sophie. And basically you're like, it's the day of the gommage, which is the day that all the 34-year-olds are going to poof away. And you learn that Gustave is 33, so next year he's going to poof away. And so this is his last year of life. And he has a Maelle, who's a younger sister, who will be played by Sadie Sink in a few years, I'm sure. Is like kind of like her younger sister, adopted younger sister, because she's an orphan.
Everybody's gonna scream at me. I'm so sorry because I said Ben Starr, who is not Gustave, and I'm so sorry. Everybody's probably like, Lizzie, you absolute crazy. Yeah, because it's Charlie Cox who plays Gustave, and Ben Starr is who plays the other one that looks
Verso or Renoir. They all look the same.
No, Verso.
All white men look the same.
Renoir. That's a whole, continue.
Renoir, Gustave, Verso all look the same. Anyway,
a little bit, yeah.
That was a little bit. Anyway, it was to the point where I was like, oh, they just didn't want to make a second character model. Like I got confused when all three of them were in a scene. I was like, I don't know. It
definitely makes you think that they have to all be related.
Perhaps.
It's too similar that's. I was like, why do y'all all look the same?
Yeah, and maybe that was what they're going for. So anyway, so you go through the town, you learn how to do the turn-based combat, which is fun. It's got kind of like a battle point system similar to like some of like the Bravely Default games and like Octopath Traveler. And then you have the first of, I think what the game is best at is the first of scenes where they try to make you cry. They play the heavy violin music and someone dies tragically. first but not the last. Spoiler alert. And then she like poofs away, right? And
which is Sophie. And it
so
was because they kind of they dip you into this very quickly.
they do.
Of you meet Maelle, like you said, it's his like kind of adopted sister, and it's like one of the very first things that she starts talking about is, well, Sophie this and Sophie that, and you're going to see her and blah blah blah, and then you keep on going, and it's like just this build up to meet
and it's all
her.
These people talking about how awesome Sophie is. And,
you're meeting this whole town, and these town folks know who Sophie is, and they love her. And then you can like they're also telling the story of like that they were together and they were in love, and they're not together anymore. And then they get down to the end of the pier, and it's like, you know, this like moment where you're like, oh, are you guys gonna like, because you're not really sure what the gamage is at that point. There's just a bunch of rose petal. You're just like, okay, what is it? And then they get to the end and you're like, oh, are they gonna like kind of rekindle this? And then she's gone, and you're like, oh, whoa.
They basically went shot for shot the ending of Rogue One, right, where they're just on the beach and then they hold hands and she blows up.
That and Endgame, where all of a sudden they're all like falling into ash, except for at least Sophie turns into rose petals. Yeah.
So I feel like that's a very gripping like intro to the story, right? And then the story kind of then devolves into like, so you're going on this expedition to try to defeat the paintress, so she stops writing, like, you know,
counting people, basically.
Gamaging people.
Yeah.
And you kind of learn that, oh, this has been happening for the past 67 years, right? That every year an expedition goes out, and it's been becoming more and more of like a hopeless struggle. And you immediately land, and most people in the expedition get blown up by some strange old man. And I and then it kind of turns into a story about the survivors of Expedition 33 trying to figure out a way to defeat the paintress. So you have Gustav and Maelle, and then you meet Lune and CL through kind of that first act of the game. I think those are the only party members, because you don't meet Eskia yet, right? So
nope. But I'm curious about, I guess you had already played some like turn-based games at this point. So like, where did you feel like it kind of like lined up? Do you feel like they're kind of all equal, or some better than the others? Because this was my first turn-based game. So coming from somebody who had never played turn-based games, I had watched a very tiny bit of this game before I started it. And I was like, turn-based gaming is not my thing. It's not up my alley. And then I was like, you know what, whatever. Everybody talks so highly about it. I'll give it a shot. And by the end of it, I was like, this is fucking fun. This is great. This could potentially lead me to want to play other ones.
Yeah. So like, let's talk a little bit about this turn-based gameplay, right? Because you, like you said, it's everybody, you know, you see a turn order on the side, and then in between, though, I think the sort of unique thing, even though like Sea of Stars has done it, and I believe some of the Paper Mario games and the Mario RPGs have done it, where you can parry the attacks coming in from the enemies, and really it's kind of required. Like I don't think you can beat the game without parrying.
No.
It'd be very hard. There are Pictos that would kind of help with that. Pictos are sort of their system. I think if I remember correctly, one of the Final Fantasies, like 8 or 10, had like a similar system where you could kind of assign these sort of
buffs
Pictos to your characters,
sorts.
That would buff your character in certain ways or give them abilities, right? Like you get an extra action point for every parry you do, or what have you. And I would say that like the parrying system made it feel like you weren't playing a truly proper like I go you go kind of JRPG style game.
Yep.
It felt very like Sekiro, very like FromSoft, Soulsborne kind of game, you know? I did like that each character in your party has its own kind of like mechanic that goes along with it. Like Minoko, he, you know, ate the feet, got the special powers, and then he had like a wheel that every time it was on a certain like flavor of a bit like attack, those attacks would be buffed, and then if you did an attack of the same, it would spin to another one. So it was kind of like you were trying to line up line up sequence attacks in a way that you were just always getting the buff and the benefit from it. And
Did
then
you
like
use Minoko?
I didn't.
I never
No.
used him. I felt so bad. I think you had to get the first foot, like you had to. It was like part of like the story,
Yes.
like to continue.
Yeah.
And I think I got that one, and I don't think I ever got another one. Never used him. Loved him.
I was a little confused when I first started playing the game. I will say that is like, I thought that every party member, like, I was like, oh, do I have to level up all these people? And then after Act 1, I was like, no, fuck that. So I went Lune, Verso, Maelle, Lune, Verso, Maelle.
Really,
Right.
that's a lot of people hate on using Verso.
Yeah.
I was a Verso user too. I was much Verso, Maelle. I used CL a lot in the beginning. She was my overpowered character for a very long time. But then as I started to learn how to use Maelle, and Maelle became a powerhouse for me, I needed Lune for certain things. And so CL would then end up getting popped out because I needed Lune.
Lune was my powerhouse. Lune was how I did a lot of my damage.
Okay.
But I think properly, like, yeah, you're supposed to use Maelle for like one-shotting folks and then buffing them with CL, and then, you know, Monoko or Lune in the other slot. I just had Verso because for the plot, and I basically I was like, I like these two systems better than I liked the whole card system. I got a little confused by with CL.
It took a while to get used to. Hers took me a long time to figure out and be like, how do I don't really understand this. But once I got it, I liked it for a long time.
And I saw too many Quentin Tarantino movies, memes about Monoko to play him. So I was like, okay.
Monoko, though, like, to be quite honest, I would watch people's reactions of meeting Monoko because that music quite literally might have been the most epic, good music I've ever heard in my life. Like, and he's funny. I think he's hilarious. You hear him in the background. He talks. I mean, the first thing he says when you meet him, he's basically like he's a paintbrush mixed with like a monkey almost. I don't really know what he is, but he has a staff. And you walk in with Maelle and CL and Lune, and they're all very pretty. And he's like, ladies. And he like smacks himself in the head with it. And they're all like, you're a fucking goober. And so like, it's a very fun introduction with Monoko of like him being a smart ass. And then just the incredible music.
Yeah, the music is great. I think when I replay this game in, you know, however many years, when, you know, their next game comes out in the series, I probably will use CL and Monoko and someone else, just because I just want to play around with their systems, and it's like it is a fun turn-based RPG in that sense.
Yeah.
I don't know that I found the turn-based action enough like as fun as some other games that are turn-based. I think one complaint I have about it, at least in the mid game, until you get enough Pictos to kind of have infinite AP forever. I found in the mid game there were times where I was like, wow, if they don't attack Lune right here and I don't get to parry, I am gonna have a couple really awkward turns.
Oh yeah.
And I found that clunky. And I felt like I wasn't really in control of the sequencing, and I didn't just have the tools at my disposal to like enjoy it. Where there are other games, for instance, like Octopath Traveler and like Bravely Default, where like you could choose to like just defend on your turn, and then you would get bonus points for your next turn in the game. And I think there's cool ways that they could have implemented that, but if you couldn't do that and also do the parrying. And I felt like they're like, even in most From Software games besides Sekiro, you can get away with not knowing how to parry an Elden Ring for the whole game, and it doesn't really take away from your enjoyment of it. You can just hit people with big stick. I don't think if you don't enjoy the parrying, I don't think you're going to enjoy Expedition 33.
I think parrying in this game is also just very like, it's a hard time thing. Like I had to turn down there was, I think, a setting also in there that it was like your parrying could be a little bit like looser, and that's what I had to use because I did not do well. I don't think that you have to parry to finish the game. I think the dodge, obviously you do. I mean, there
Yeah.
are certain things where like at least it gives you the trigger for like, hey, you have to parry this.
Yeah.
But it definitely gets a lot easier if you learn how to do it, because if you can parry every hit, you get that extra hit that takes out a lot of damage. But it did take me a long time to figure out how to parry. But once you do know how to parry,
I think
it's the
the
coolest
trick with
shit.
parrying is close your eyes and listen, because
Yep.
there are like they had 3 sound effects in the game, and it was like those 3 sound effects were, if when you hear this, you hit the parry button and you're okay.
In so many Twitch chats, when people were like, I don't understand parrying, I'm like, if you can get used to listening to the music and what they're gonna do, I was like, you will hear it. You'll learn to hear it so much quicker than you'll learn to see it.
No, and sometimes they like try to fake you out with the visual, but there's very few enemies in the game that will try to fake you out with sound. And it made the game fine. It was a nice little rhythm game. I wasn't super wowed with it. I think the type of turn-based games that I think I prefer more is more like active time battle, like some of the older Final Fantasies and like Chrono Trigger, and I think Sea of Stars was like that. But you know, I'm glad that there are people, because most of the people that really rave about the combat and like the gameplay in Expedition 33 to me are people like you and like a few of my other friends who've never really played like a JRPG before, or like a turn-based JRPG, I should say, and just you know, this kind of bridges the gap, and I'm like, oh well, great, now you can go play Persona, or you can go play Dragon Quest, or you can go play some of these other really wonderful games and experience them, and you'll feel a little less alien and a little less bored, hopefully, because of that. But I don't think it was anything to write home about. I don't think it was game of the year all years for gameplay, but I don't think that's why people play it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the story kind of took the winning, and I also think it was just also like the game itself was very beautiful. I think sometimes it got a little glitchy where you were like, oh, I'm a little like my frames drop a little. It's a very intense game. You cannot play this thing on a brick. Like like your computer needs to be a well fucking oiled machine, or it's gonna fall apart.
I did find that like the color palette was a little muted for my personal taste.
Yeah.
Was like, it's beautiful. There was just a lot of grays and browns.
Yeah.
And I know it's like post-apocalyptic burnt earth kind of deal, but I was like, I prefer a game with a little more color than this. And I hope that in their next game, to continue to contrast, they add more colors.
You should play the DLC. You get thrown into Candyland. It's incredible.
That's amazing. I might.
Fun.
I might. So yeah, and you know, on the story, like I feel like, you know, one moment in the game that I think it really clicked for a lot of folks is at the end of Act 1, when, major spoiler alert here, Gustav dies. They did a really great job faking you out, because there's like skill trees in the game, and most of Gustav's skill tree was like locked, so it made it, you think like, oh, I'm gonna unlock all these things, it's gonna be so cool, and then they just like ice them. They're just like, you're done, you're dead, and then we're gonna replace him immediately with someone who looks exactly like him in Verso. And that was, I think, the most shocking twist in the game for me.
Really, was the Gustav stuff.
I did not see it coming.
I was very shocked, and that one hurt me so bad, because I really liked Gustav's character.
Oh, he was the best character in Act 1.
And then I think they did really well with like leaving Maelle up there with him alone, you know, with Renoir, and like having, you know, okay, now first of all, and you have this boss that you fight right before Renoir, which is one of like the first like trickier bosses, I think, that like you're like, okay, hold on, I gotta kind of think about this. Like I saw a lot of people who had to restart that boss fight over and over and over again.
Wow.
I thought it was fun. It did
Yeah,
take me like 2 or 3 times.
he was like the lantern guy, right?
Mhm.
Like, yeah, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, neither can I. And but I thought he was fun. And then yeah, leaving Maelle up there with Gustav alone, which I think was a good choice, but also was very heart wrenching because then she had to deal with this by herself. And
Right.
I think like when he actually dies, like when because you get this like fake out. And I think it also, again, the way they did it, I thought was very interesting because at some point you realize like you're getting to fight Renoir, but his health is not going down. And you're like, this is a losing battle here. Like I'm not doing anything. And then
Yeah.
he kills you and you get this really sad hurtling scream from Maelle, and she breaks this barrier that's around her and you're like, oh dear God.
Mm-hmm. I think like with that fight in particular, the Renoir fight, the first Renoir fight, it's a very common trope in JRPGs to have a fight, like a boss fight that like, oh, you're like meant to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
But often what happens is it like fades to black and you were rescued at the last moment by, let's say, SGA or someone, right? Would carry you off and you wake up on a beach and be like, oh, I can't, how are we going to find a weapon to defeat this guy? And then you find the weapon. And that's what I thought it was doing. So for them to actually like kill Gustav and keep him dead, kind of like really like, stick to their guns on that. I was like, wow, this is already better than Stranger Things season 5. And even though it wasn't out yet, but yeah, I really appreciated that aspect.
In the moment, did you have any ideas who Renoir, or then you meet Verso? Verso kind of comes in and is like, all right, Maelle, get the fuck out of here. I'll take care of this. What was your thought process through there? Because I was like, oh my God, who, like, there was so many thoughts in my mind at that point.
At my point, I was like, who's this Gustav ass looking motherfucker who's just stepped into my scene? And then it was like, oh, I just figured he was like the guy, I did not. I think you're asking if I knew that they were related, right?
Yeah, or just your first like thought process of like who are all of these people. Because again, for me, I was very confused when Verso came into the screen being like, why does he look like Gustav? Like why do they look all the same?
Well, that did cross my mind. I was like, why did Gustav and Verso look alike, and and also kind of Renoir looks like them too, but old. And then why does Maelle look like the weird girl with the mask?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that too.
And obviously that, spoiler alert, if you haven't turned off this podcast and you care about spoilers for this game, turn it off. But the fact that Maelle is that girl, that girl's the painted version of Maelle. Alicia. Big spoiler, right? And we'll get into that when we start talking about the final third of the game, where my real complaints start to come in. But from that point, I was really intrigued by Verso as a character. I was really intrigued by Lune and CL. I was really intrigued by Maelle. I even thought Renoir seemed like a really interesting character.
Oh yeah.
They talked a lot in vagaries. And I think like pretty early on, it was very, I think you learned pretty early on in Act 2 that like Verso is related to Renoir and Alicia.
It's that, I think the fight at the house, you kind of really start to piece it together. Yes. And you're like, okay, there's something here that like I feel like you get like some of the pieces, but you don't like fully like connect them yet. There's still, I remember there was like a moment where I was like, okay, I'm getting it, but it's still not like there.
Yeah, and they really like to let you just kind of sit in that state of confusion. Another reason why I would kind of compare this game honestly to an Elden Ring in that sense of like, you don't get the full story. But I found that Act 2 in this game is a really great like story about a group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't think any of the characters are really well explored, like fully, at least in the main story. As
Mm.
like Lune and Ciel in particular, I found quite flat beyond kind of their you get little snippets from the heart to hearts, and you get but it's never, you never really see any growth.
Mm.
Like Lune, I know she sits down and during one of the endings, but besides that, like that is like the most character development you get for like the whole game.
Mm.
But my complaint comes in, you at the end of Act 3. So in Act 2, you go through, you fight the Axons, you get the special sword to go kill the paintress. You find out that the paintress is mother and Renoir is father, and Verso and Maelle are related. And then you go home victorious, and then everyone gets gamaged except for Maelle and Verso, and including Lune and Ciel.
How often? Hold on, back up. How often were you talking to them at the cutscenes at the fire?
Every time.
Okay.
Actually, one of the cutscenes did kind of piece it together for me when Verso talks about my parents were disappointed I became a musician instead of doing other types of art. I was like, oh, he's related to the paintress.
Ciel's story broke my entire life. It
Really?
hurt my soul. Yeah, because you learn that
Can't have a baby.
Well, she had a baby,
Yeah.
and it died, and her husband died, and she tried to drown herself.
Yes.
And Eskia came and saved her, and I cried with that. Like that one hurt me a bit, and that's why she knows Eskia so well. And oh my gosh, that whole scene, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't handle this.
I just feel like when I say that they were flat characters, I meant that they didn't really have an arc.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you uncover about their past, but like it doesn't change how I perceive them, and like the way that the way that the all pretty big cosmic things happen, and they're kind of just the same people throughout. Because as the end of Act 2 kind of teaches us, they are painted, right? So you find out that you are in a piece of AI art. I mean, you're in a painting, and the real world, there's your Maelle, who's really Alicia, Verso, and Renoir and Aline, who's the paintress, are a family who are part of this guild of magical painters who can like paint these incredible paintings, and then like they're worlds that they can just hop into.
It's like Mario 64.
Yeah, and you find out that Verso had died in a fire, like like the Baudelaires in a Series of Unfortunate Events, and this is his last remaining painting. And Aline has chosen to live in there with the last remnant of like the memory of Verso, and Alicia has gone, and Renoir have gone in to try to pull her out, but Alicia has forgotten because she was born as a baby, Maelle, and everything's kind of been barreling towards this moment, right? Which is a really cool world. My big complaint with the story of Expedition 33 is they dangle these interesting characters in front of you. They're like, oh, this is a story about a party. And then they're like, no, this is just a story about Verso and Maelle, and everyone else can get fucked. And then they put that conflict in front of you, and you then spend Act 3, which you can go and spend another 20 hours of side content in Act 3, and you can go to Candyland and you can go fight bosses with Verso and Maelle basically not acknowledging the conflict. Basically until they go to Lumiere and you start that final sequence. And I'm like, why? Like they are so diametrically opposed. Why are they still traveling together? Why don't you make the decision of, do I side with Maelle and Verso then, when they are at the camp and everything's on the table, and Verso's like, we need to destroy the painting, and Maelle's like, we need to stop Renoir from destroying the painting because this is the real world and this is where I want to live.
I get your point, but I feel like it would piss off so many people to then not be able to use one of them for the rest of your side quest. Because like if I had built up Maelle and then I also just don't know if you fully
Welcome
understand.
to a game with choices.
Yeah, I think there's a
what
lot.
What don't I understand?
I think there's a lot of choice. Well, you also just told me that you didn't go and fight Maelle's sister.
I didn't fight Clea, no.
That's a hard fucking fight, and but it also like it opens up these doors of like understanding like where Clea stands too, and she's fucking psychopath.
Sure. Again, but like they did a whole like they're just like it felt like they got to Act 3 and they're like, well, we need to wrap this up. Money's running out, and they put a bunch of important stuff in side content, a lot of bosses, but then like the actual main story. It devolves from like here's a cool story about the expedition to like actually no, it's just about this. And I was a little annoyed by that.
When
and then it made my like my love of Lune and just like, well, she doesn't matter, she's a painting.
When the twist happened, when the paintress basically kind of implodes on Lumiere and everything disappears, were you ever confused in that moment? Because I'll be honest, even listening to her read the note that says you're basically just a painting of my family, we live on the outside, you're here, it took me a hot minute to really grasp what was happening. Like I had to have our friend Bruce kind of break it down for me, because I was like, I this is a lot to unpack here.
I think I think I had figured out that like the paintress was related to Maelle, and I think I figured out that this was not the reality. I was shocked when everything went poof. I respected it, and I was like, this would have been a cool place to end it. And I thought it presented a really interesting world, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that whole idea of like jumping into paintings, which is where I think a sequel could go and could be really cool, where instead of just being in one painting, you can kind of go from painting to painting and like kind of like Mario 64.
Yeah.
And I think that would present a really kind of cool world. And maybe there's like some sort of like the fight between the writers and the painters, or like fight between two painters guilds in the paintings. Could lead to some a really interesting game. I thought it was an interesting twist. It wasn't like, I was like, this is cool. This is a cool world.
I think it was the first time that I started to think like, who's right here? Like,
who do you think's right?
Whether it's the mom or Renoir, because in this letter, she's saying like, hey, she's trying so hard to like keep this alive, this painting down here.
But she's doing that to smother her grief, right?
Yes.
And this is a story about grief. This is how families deal with grief.
And I remember being like, oh God, like where do I side with this? Like, is she right? Like, is she wrong? Are you keeping Lune and these fake people alive just to have this world? Are you really killing people, but not really? And I remember that was kind of like the first time of being like, there's some like I don't know what side I'm on. That was the first time that I was like, I don't know how to feel. Like, is Renoir right about this? Is she right about this? Like who because there's not like, I don't know, I think there's like a right and wrong answer, but it was the first time that I was like, who is right here? Who is
right here, Lizzie?
We'll get to that.
So I think it does. When it became a story about that, like Act 3 on its own, I thought was interesting enough. Like I thought there's a lot of cool things to explore here, but my complaint is just that it for me minimized how much I'm willing to invest in Ciel and Lune and the other characters, because I found I was like, okay, so they don't really matter. They are second tier. They are props in this little game.
Oh, see, I think that's crazy, because I'm like, the fact that you're like, they're not like a real person that you're just like, meh. We're like, I it's just interesting to hear that you're like, eh.
And look, as someone,
What
I
about
write.
Noko?
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
Poor
As
Noko was
someone
so
who writes,
sad.
maybe it's like I'm just I'm so used to killing my darlings that like I don't know. I found the metaphor of like artists, create living worlds that they get lost in and they invest in. I found it a very like heavy-handed kind of metaphor that the game's going for
Yeah,
there. And I found it, I don't know if pretentious is exactly how I found it, but I just was like, okay, I've seen this before. I've talked to enough people about this. I find it a bit hokey of like, I don't, I have written plays and that have been staged and produced, and I don't believe a character for myself lives outside the bounds of a text, personally.
Yeah. And I get it. I mean, I think it's also, it just goes to show like how like not everything is so dictated for like one person too, and how that is gaming in a nutshell of like there are things that really speak to people, and there's some that it's like a meh moment.
Let me ask you, when you turned off the game for the last time, were you sad that you then killed Maelle? Because that's what the meta commentary kind of is, right? Of like, you get lost in a video game because they're making a video game which is a piece of art that has these characters that is a living world in quotes. But they are as superficial as Maelle and CL are to the painting. Every character in that game is that to the game itself.
So if we're gonna jump into the whole like ending situation,
meta commentary, sure. So the situation at the ending is you can pick Verso, who wants to help. Like there's a little painter boy who is definitely who is
Verso,
who is id, right? Who is the boy inside. If anyone's gone to therapy and done parts work, it's the little boy part in him. The little painter boy who Verso wants to lead away from painting and let him stop, let him die, end the painting. And Maelle wants the painting to continue on longer because her life outside is hard with the grief of Verso. And there was also like a bit of a commentary of like, she has a line, I believe, at the end where she's like, I don't have a voice and I can't do all these things out there, and here I'm a living person. And I was like, is this really the message we want to be sending about having a disability? And anyway, but fine. But yeah, so you can either, at the end, you can either side with Verso or you can do the right thing. And Maelle, you can side with Maelle, and then they fight, and then you get the ending that you chose.
So which one did you pick?
Do you want to know?
Yeah.
I picked the Maelle ending.
Which is wild to me, that you're like, these people don't mean anything, but then you saved all of them and you allowed this mother to live in her grief, and essentially for Maelle to follow those footsteps and live in this grief. I couldn't do it.
You couldn't do it? You picked Verso.
I did. I
think having seen, because I went back and I did both endings. Having seen both endings, I think I like the Verso ending more, and I hope when there's an adaptation of this for screen, I hope they do the Verso ending. I guess for me, the character who I liked most was Lune, and I was like, Lune is just a prop in this game. But
she's not real. It doesn't matter, she's not. Alex.
You can like something that's not real. I like Lego. I don't think I have a real Mandalorian helmet.
Yeah, but you just said that was the part of the problem. Was it didn't matter.
The part of the problem, my part of the problem with the story is that they discarded half of their interesting characters. But I was like, well, you know what? This is the ending that Lune lives.
I couldn't do it. I could not allow her to live the same grief lifestyle that her mother did, which is like the essential of like the whole entire game was trying to get her mom out of this grief and back to the real world. And you're going to have to address this at some point. You can't live this fantasy life forever. And I couldn't handle Maelle doing the same. But also, yeah, seeing Verso as little boy Verso, I was like, I can't force this child to continue to paint either. He deserves to be done, to lay to rest, to not have to continue.
I just want all children to suffer, you know?
And then I got my ending and I felt really good about it. And then I went back and I didn't redo it. I just watched it on YouTube. Yeah. And then I watched the opposite. And you see, you know, if you do fight Maelle, or if you don't, you see Verso stuck, still playing the piano with all this anger, and he's mad that he is stuck there. And Maelle's just like, I'm here with all my friends and my SKA, you know, in Lune and all my buddies. Fuck you, Verso. You're stuck here painting for the rest of your life, you bitch. Couldn't do it.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that was the only appropriate. Anybody who sees the endings of both of those and was like, that wasn't the right answer, I was like, you're crazy.
The Maelle ending is the bad ending. It's the sad ending. For sure. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The Verso is the Verso is probably the correct thing to do. I just didn't do it.
Yeah. Because when you do the opposite, then you see Maelle with her plushie and she's with her parents again, and they're all up in like their real world with Clea, with her sister, and they're going to visit Verso's grave. And it's them kind of really just being like, okay, yeah, this is our life and we're going to grieve the loss of our brother and our son and everything. And I'm sorry, yeah, it sucks, Maelle, that you had some trauma and you had to suffer some stuff, but you're going to have to face that fact. Because also, like, the other thing is like, to my understanding, when you talk to Clea early on, this is a bit Maelle's fault. Or whatever you want to call her, you know, that she was the one who went after the writers or whatever and kind of started to cause this clash, which is why they retaliated. And then Verso had to come save Maelle. And then, unfortunately, was the loss of his life.
I don't think you can pin. I would. That's tough to put on a teenager. Like, she was a kid.
It is, but I think that's what they're leading towards, is that that's what Clea tries to say is, hey, you were the one that brought this. You need to live with it, kind of thing. Because she was the one that I think went after the writers, and which caused this problem. Yes. But yeah, I'm not saying she should have to deal with it like that, but we need to be part of the real world again, and we need to grieve and be okay with it. Not like your mother.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought the third act in isolation, really interesting story. Mm-hmm. I just, my complaints with the game, like we said, is that do I think it's a good game? Yeah. Like, if someone was like, I'm interested in playing that game, I'd be like, do it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to play it again. It's the second best game I've ever played with Jennifer English as a voice actor. I'll say that.
Anything you put this woman in, she's just been a star-studded winner.
Absolutely. Jennifer English voiced Maelle, and then she also voiced Shadowheart in Baldur's Gate 3, which I'm replaying right now.
There's something else too. Wasn't she in she's in something else, because I remember our buddies were just talking about it. There's another like huge game that she was in. I think a very short stint, but she's in something else as well.
Yeah. So I'm really glad about the fact that this game is like, has captured enough of the cultural zeitgeist that like the voice actors are getting a lot of like airtime and acclaim for it. And I think that would be a really cool direction for the gaming industry to go, to start having like known voice actors, and like not only like, oh, we had, you know, Andy Serkis come in and pull the voice for Noir, which is cool, but it's like Andy Serkis isn't known for being a video game character. He's known for being Gollum.
Yeah.
Whereas like Jennifer English is known for Maelle and Shadowheart, and you know, it's kind of cool. Like I hope that going forward we have more of that, because I think that would be just really cool to help legitimize video games as like on par with film and television, and like, yeah, I think it's fun. I will say, as someone who lives in a very French part of the world, I was a little sad that really like they only said merde instead of like some of the other, like I was waiting for one tabarnak, or like, you know, just one like other like Zudalor or something, right? Like some curse words. I don't know, or just more French. There's a little bit of French, but I guess they didn't want to put too much French in it. Yeah. So overall, it's a good game. Yeah. How do you like are you surprised at how I've reacted to this game? Like, were you expecting me to hate on it more?
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
Our thought processes on things can be very similar sometimes, but also very different because of your background in, you know, theater and stuff. And so you're a bit of a harsh critique on some things.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know if it's gonna hit Alex the same way it hit me.
My liberal arts degree has made it so I can't enjoy anything.
Yeah.
Like it's a degree that you pay for, so then you can't enjoy any movie without being like, oh, that was problematic. That was kind of, you know.
That was kind of like, I mean, I did a very short stint of like theater and stuff like that in like high school, and like, you know, I love watching behind the scenes stuff, and that's originally what I was going to do before I changed my mind. Was I wanted to be in like the behind the scenes of movies. So
still could.
Yeah. So for a lot of my high school career, that's what I was doing. And that's similarly, I watched Shutter Island for the first time a few weeks ago. And at the end of it, my husband asked, he was like, so were you expecting it? And I was like, yeah, by halfway through, I'd figured it out. I was like, and he was like, how? And I was like, I think it has to do with the way that I perceive movies sometimes, that it didn't make sense to me, and this didn't work, and this and XYZ did. And he was like, I didn't figure it out to the end. He was like, I was so shocked. And I was like, yeah, I think I had it figured out a lot earlier than maybe a few other people in the world would have. I was like, just based on my knowledge of things. So I think I went into this being like, Alex might not enjoy this as much as I did. And like you said, the turn-based in this is so not specific, but slightly specific for this game, that I thought it was great. I thought it was so fucking fun.
It is, and I hope you like. I hope that you now, when you see a game's turn-based, you're not immediately like nope.
No, and that was one of the big things that I talked about with some of our pals, was that, you know, I think it was a very opening game. I think for a lot of people too. I think there was a lot of people who had never played turn-based games, that they went into this very similar with me, not have ever played, but it got so much hype, you wanted to see what it was about, and a story. I love a good story game too, that I was like, whatever, I'll do it. And now I'm like, oh yeah, if somebody was like, this is a good game and it's turn-based, I'd be like, okay, cool. Like I can get down with it.
Yeah, I feel like there are still a few things, if I were to recommend a turn-based game to you, that I now know enough about you to be like, okay, well, I probably wouldn't pick one that has a lot of like random encounters, like when you're just walking around the overmap. And I feel like you also probably don't want like just a bunch of reading, you know, like voice acting, good voice acting.
Yep.
I feel like there's a few things that I'd be like, okay.
I think my biggest gripe with the game, honestly, that pissed me off, and it's so simple and minuscule, but God, it drove me insane, was you get into any of these areas in, you know how you can like walk around like kind of like your overworld, you know, situation, and then you enter like these areas, shorter areas where like the axons are, and you don't get a fucking mini map. You know how many times I got fucking lost and turned around and be like, was this the same way I was going?
Oh yeah.
Pissed me off.
I didn't even I had a list of stuff that I forgot about until just now, that I was writing down when I was playing. And I believe my top bullet point of my complaints about this game, because I went in a bit as a hater. I will say that. my top complaint is the UX, like the user experience for like the UI and the overlays and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute butt cheeks.
Yeah, it's
Absolute.
not incredible.
It's like the fact that you can be in the overworld and the map button is the up arrow and the go to camp button without a like, do you want to go to camp, is the down arrow. Infuriated me. I found the menus for like doing Pictos and Lumina, and like I found just navigating the menus really confusing.
It was really weird. Yeah.
And they were a little buggy, and I was like, wow, these menus suck.
I think if somebody didn't point out the whole Lumina situation to me, I think I would have missed it, because it's so small, like in the corner, that I don't think I would have seen it. I think they explained it once and then maybe that was it. I think if it wasn't for the fact that I was playing it on Discord and had buddies who were like, hey, don't forget about this, and then had to help me also break it down because I didn't understand it, like I think it would have went unnoticed for me.
And the only saving grace with not having a mini map is that the actual level design is so linear. You're just walking through really pretty hallways. Like the level design, I think, left a lot to be desired. It was very style over substance, in the sense of like, there's quote unquote exploration, but it's really like, just go and look around this turn to see if there's something in the corner and then go back to the only path forward.
Well, here's the thing that I learned a little bit later that I was like, man, that would have been nice to know, was in most situations, if you watch, there's lanterns everywhere. Yeah. And the lanterns would turn on if you went that way. So if you ever did, because I'm just bad with directions in general, so I would go down that little path and then I'd come back and I'd be like, shit, did I come in this way from the left or the right? Which way do I go? And all of a sudden I'd be back where I entered, but then somebody had mentioned that they were like, if you look for lanterns and lanterns are off, and you go that way, it will turn on after. And I was like, oh, that's really smart, actually. But the other question I had for you that I was going to ask earlier and I forgot was, who did you end up with between Lune and Ciel?
Lune.
Did you? Mine was also Lune, and I was the only one out of all of my friends, I think, who got Lune. I think everybody else ended up with, or maybe I got Ciel. I'd have to ask Bruce now, because I remember I didn't know that there was an option. I had no idea that you could do one or the other. And somehow I was the one that ended with the opposite of what our buddy Bruce and Pat got. And they were like, how the fuck did you manage to do that? I'm like, I have no idea.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Lune's best girl. She's, and not that it mattered. Not that she was part of this whole thing. She just was. So I think that my biggest complaint is about the story structure, and the other one is the UI and the fact that the levels were like, just, they're pretty but really didn't encourage exploration in a way, or really allow for like branching paths, and weren't super easy to navigate without knowing about the lantern trick. I found the one level with like where you're going to the Axon, not the one with the masks, the other one, the dancer one. Holy hell, that just goes on forever.
It does. I thought it was so cool though. Like I thought it was the coolest fucking, like, her and the dance and all of that, like, was crazy. The area pissed me off to no end though.
I figured out pretty early on that she was gonna charm people. So when I got the Picto to be like, equip this to be immune to charm, I just was like, oh, okay. So I went and did 4 fights and then equipped it to everyone, and then the boss fight was pretty trivial after that.
Yeah.
So overall,
I'm glad
I played it. Good game.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if people want me to rip into it more. But
no, I think it. Like I said, I thought it was incredible. I loved it. I think for me, it stacks up as one of the better games I've ever played, honestly. But again, you're talking to somebody who loves a story-based game.
How does it compare to like the Zelda series for you, like for like Ocarina of Time and Breath of the Wild?
That's hard because it's like a whole different, in my mind, that's a whole, like, these are 2 different parts of my brain. Like, sure. Zelda is its own thing. And then there's the rest of the games of the world, and this stacks up at like the top.
Mm-hmm.
Like with what is the other one that I really really liked that I played last year, and I've played.
Dragon Age failed it.
Yeah, I've played 2 of the Dragon Age games, and they're also up there, and like Horizon is up there. So I do have like a very specific type of game I do like to play, because they're all kind of pretty good story based with some exploration and fighting. Zelda has its own fucking continent far away that it lives on, if I'm being honest.
Has it made you want to, like, are there any games that after playing Expedition 33 it's made you want to play or try?
Not yet, but I think it's definitely made me, like I said, I'm more open to suggestions now. Right. Where I'm like, okay, if you threw me a suggestion, you were like turn-based game, I'd be like, okay, where I feel like before I would have been like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
I think you and I at some point need to sit down in Discord for like an hour and a half, and I need to walk you through enough about D&D that you can play Baldur's Gate 3. I really do.
Yeah, I know. It's still up there. It might have to, it's going to be when the probably has to wait now, but
oh yeah, it's when the mood strikes, when the time's right.
Yeah, it's so right now, because right now I just got a bunch of Steam money. Ooh. For my last day of work, and so now I'm gonna start looking for games that I can play and be a lazy bum for the next months of my life while I'm probably couch bound. So,
like, what kind of game are you looking for?
I don't really know yet, but because it's funny, I got Steam money, but really what I want is Story of Seasons, the Grand Bazaar for the Switch. So I'm kind of like, I wish it would have been Switch money, but that's okay. I'm thankful for it regardless.
I think Grand Bazaar is on Steam though. So I guess,
but I want it to be able to go on my couch with me is my problem. Right. Right. So I don't know. I'm looking for right now. I'm looking for lazy games. Honestly, nothing that takes up too much of my like mental space and capacity. So basically, farming games. Yep.
Well, if you end up getting the Grand Bazaar, I will get it because it's on my list. I
double down and play.
We could do a little. That could be our next game that we go over.
Yeah.
Go from one intense JRPG to like the Grand Bazaar.
I was gonna say the nice little like farming sim,
capitalist simulator.
But thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I know we've been waiting for a hot minute for Alex to finish up Expedition. So and we will see you guys 2 more weeks. Hopefully now I am officially out of work for a bit, because if you haven't been listening along, I am 7.5 months pregnant. So I'm homebound. So I hope that my wish is to start getting some more stuff out, that you guys will get to see us back on like TikTok and Instagram. So we'll see. But thanks for listening. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we'll see you guys next time.